yes, we're all sorted. So I'll pass you over to Sam from CyberDuck, who will teach you about design thinking. Welcome, Sam.
Okay. Hello. Yes. Yeah, I'm Sam. As you've heard, I'm from CyberDuck, an agency that makes websites and apps and things we do from research all the way through to the build. So let me just technology works best. Okay, so that's me. Like I say, I'm a UX designer, which is a user experience designer, so I tend to focus on talking to a business, finding out what they need, what they want to do, and then talking to their users and making sure that those things pair up. And then from our research, we then translate our findings into designs, basically. So rather than just blindly sort of jumping into a design, we gather as much information as we can to make sure that the product we're going to make is actually of use to the people we're trying to make it for them. So we sort of save a bit of time later on. My email here, I actually would quite like from each team someone to become a bit like my liaison. So you could email me perhaps maybe not today, but tomorrow, like the team name you have, the product you're going to make, and a bit of the thinking behind it. That would be great, but I'll come around and give you my email and stuff later. What's one of your mentors? One of the things we've made at CyberDuck, just if you're interested, is an app called the UX Companion. You can download it for free. It's got loads of stuff, just basically a sort of glossary of processes and terminology and stuff, and with explanations there. So if you're interested, go ahead and download that. And so so it's going to be a bit of a whirlwind crash course today. We've got a couple of hours to do quite a lot of stuff. We'll be looking at what do you think you want to design and why, then try and identify who it's actually for, and then from that we'll do a bit of sort of research. We'll have to maybe fake it a little bit because of the time constraints, but try and start to actually identify who you really need to design and who you're really designing for. The idea there is that you're designing to meet the needs of your users and not what you assume that you need to make, right? So it's very easy to just think, oh, this will sort this problem out, but until you talk to the people who actually experience that problem, you won't find out the real truth of what you need to make. So the basics, we start off by identifying a need. So your challenges are kind of that at the moment. They're the sort of beginning of a brief that you're going to follow. We move on from there to identifying the users and the context of which those users will use your product or your solution. Try and specify their requirements. So again, what do those users need and what do they want to achieve? And from that, we'll start to ideate some design ideas and solutions, make some prototypes, and hopefully even get a chance to test them and iterate them, which means just to revise them, basically. So what is the design process? Well, you often, with most projects, you'll start off with a lot of ideas, right? And the research is going to sort of throw open the doors to loads and loads of information. So you'll start off with this kind of messy, all over the place, lots of things flying around. And as we move forwards through the process, going through iterations and testing on very basic levels, so we always avoid coding things right at the beginning because you're kind of going in too quickly. You're going to have to make lots of changes later, which often is very expensive, very time consuming. So we do it all on like paper, pencil, bits of paper I've been handing out, and you just sketch your ideas, and those are the quick and easy things you can change, like with no cost, no time. It's really easy. And by the end of the process, you'll have a more focused and a real design that's hopefully really focused on probably one thing that you just do really well, rather than all of the things you start thinking about at the beginning. A bit blurry, but a nice quote from Lisa Ray Kelt, who's a UX designer, which is, it's a simple tip, but don't design for everyone. It's impossible. All you end up doing is designing something that makes everyone unhappy. So again, the key here is identifying the user and focusing in on that user type, right? Don't try and please everyone all the time. Another quote here from Abraham Lincoln, just to give you an idea of this, of the design process here. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. The idea being, again, just like do your research, prepare what the work is going to be that you do, rather than diving into it. Now this is a quite commonly used example of like what the design process and how it works, what it is and how it works. It's called the double diamond. As the things move out, that's basically the sort of scope and range of the ideas you might be dealing with. So as you start at the beginning, you're obviously trying to find out as much as you can. So don't feel you have really any boundaries there. You can explore different avenues and whatnot. Then from that research, you start to hone it into a specific problem, user and context. And then you get more into the design and development. And that will allow you again to, from the focal point that you've reached, so the user and everything else that you've decided upon, you can now widen that out again. How are you going to solve that problem? What are the different solutions you can come up with? Again, think outside of the box, blue sky thinking, all of that. But then you obviously have to also, again, focus that in, because you can't just build everything. So it's a process of thinking large and then focusing in, and doing that repeatedly will bring you to a hopefully streamlined and very effective product. And team roles. So yes, I know a lot of you guys here have got some quite good technical skills. It's always very impressive at these events how knowledgeable you guys are. But there are lots of other roles in a team. So myself as a UX designer or visual designers, and the engineers obviously doing the technical side of things, but you also have prototypers. A sprint master is really just someone who project managers, keeps everyone on time and going, moving forward. Researchers, but you've also got branding, marketing, SEO, there's so many people involved in a project that you mustn't ever let one kind of dominate, because you're all working together collaboratively. So the first part then, before we get into lots of the other stuff we're going to do, we'll have a quick look at the discovery phase. So where do you start? You start by understanding your brief. So you've seen those challenges. They're kind of like your broad brief that you've got. They're quite vague still, right? So I presume you guys have already started thinking about, the more granular problem that might be within that challenge, and like what specific thing you're going to look at solving. So my example, let's say, if I was asked, we want to create a voice service using Google Assistant that helps people find out about their rail journeys. Now that is, obviously, it's got a goal, it's got a product, and it identifies the thing that I'm going to try and achieve, but it's still quite high level. It's a good starting point, so that's hopefully kind of where your ideas are at the moment with what you're going to do for your challenge. But what you want to do now is dig into that idea and fill it out a bit. So we use this technique of the 5 whys. So you just keep on asking why. So with this challenge here, where I have the rail journeys, I asked why. It's because people need a way to access the information while they're not in front of a screen. Why? Because they're en route to a station maybe, or don't have that information. Again, why? Because they're busy and rushing and so can't use the screen. Why can't they use the screen? Because it takes too long, too many taps to get what they need. And then why again? Because they are on foot and stressed and rushing. Right? So it's sort of just filling out the ideas of that slightly vague statement I started with. And now that will move forward into something more like make a voice service that helps busy people rushing to the station, find train information, because it's hard for them to type while on the move. So it's, by now, that initial statement has now had some user type, some context, and also like how that problem is going to get solved by using voice. So it's actually justifying the use of voice as well. Something you should be careful of. I think with AI, a lot of things have been made but just because you can. Right? It's a new technology, people jump on it, and what you end up with is a lot of products that maybe haven't been thought out very well, and maybe don't really have a use, so people might use it once and never return. So hopefully today we can think a bit more and like have products that people will use for some time. So we're going to jump onto the first exercise. So what I'd like you to do is create that problem statement. So like the one I showed you, you can start off quite high level, Obviously, you're going to need to agree in your teams like the problem you're going to focus on. So that might take a little bit of time, but try and be, try and do it quite quickly. We do have to move quite fast today. And when you've got that statement, then just dig into it a little bit with those whys and see if you can flesh it out a bit more. Like, still be quite high level, so not too detailed, but just who is it going to be, what is the problem, and why is it? So we'll give you about 10 minutes for that. And I'll put the challenges back up as well, just in case. And now, and so off you go, 10 minutes, and your mentors will be helping you today, facilitating everything.